First Tuesday of the new month brings a visit from the guy who has created How to BBQ Right, also the pitmaster of Killer Hogs Competition Barbecue Team. We race to the hotline and welcome back Malcolm Reed to the show. Malcolm, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm good, Greg. Man, it's hard to believe quarter one is over.
That's right. Done with quarter one. So let's look back on a quick 3-month span. Where does Malcolm Reed and How to Barbecue Right and Killer Hogs all sit after Q1 of 2019?
Man, it was been so busy. We haven't had time to come up for air. I've done a lot of traveling and trying to make some good videos, and we're starting to get into our competition season. So, hey, man, we're hitting the ground running.
All right, so before we talk about all the barbecue and grilling and deer stuff that we have on the agenda this evening, obviously NCAA's is pretty big right now. Final Four has been seeded. Who do you have going to the finals, Malcolm? Let's get on record and make our picks. Here we go.
My bracket is wrecked, man.
Oh,
I don't have a
no.
team left in it.
Really?
But, Michigan State, maybe, because they're coming on. And I'll tell you what, Auburn's playing good ball, man, coming out of the SEC like they have. Nobody saw that coming.
No,
so.
I think Texas Tech, certainly if you follow NCAA basketball, you've seen what they've done the last couple seasons. Probably not a surprise to the real fans of Texas Tech, but from a national stage, I don't know how many people know about Texas Tech or know what the program they've been putting together over the last couple of years, and to see them play on this kind of a stage is truly remarkable. They look very formidable at this moment.
I was kind of shocked that the number one seeds performed the way they did. That ACC was so strong this year, and I'm not a big college basketball guy until you get to tournament time, and then we've seen some crazy games, and it's been like edge of the seat stuff. I've really enjoyed it.
No doubt. This past weekend was certainly edge of the seat stuff, as you were just mentioning. So I think I'm going Michigan State, and man, for some reason, and I have no professional experience to make this pick other than I think I just feel good. I think Auburn's going to beat Texas Tech, to be honest.
I think it's going to be a good game. I mean, if Auburn keeps playing up and down the way they have been, it's going to be exciting.
Can't wait to see what happens this coming weekend. And we're talking with Malcolm Reed, howtobbqright.com, one of the websites. Also, you have Killer Hogs BBQ as well. So I just saw in a recent video, Malcolm, you were doing some ribs and taking us through a process. And as you were, by the way, I saw something very unique as you were taking ribs like out of the foil that I never thought about doing. We'll get into the minutia there here in a second, why I thought that was a really great idea. Are you really temping your ribs? Is that a thing?
I always said I never temp ribs. I always go by feel and kind of look at them. And then Heath Riles came on and did a video with me. I guess that was towards the end of last year, his comp ribs.
I remember that.
Killing it. He'd been killing it. And he said he always temps them. He's always looking for 204. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start temping ribs. And sure, I mean, I can check them and feel. And it's like, yeah, this slab's done. And it's always right around that range. And they might be 202, but they're going to be somewhere like 202, 206, 207. I think that's just the nature of it. I don't get caught up in checking them like that, but I just, it's just a little another safety valve, I guess, to see where they're at. You're really going by feel. When you stick that probe in and it just slides in, that's what you're looking for. It's not so much what the temps read, it's how it feels, the resistance.
Are you injecting ribs at all?
No, but I've heard some guys are, so it might be something I'll start playing with.
I mean, maybe that's why a lot of guys like those Smithfield extra tender ribs. I mean, those are technically enhanced ribs, so in every respect, they've already been injected.
And, most of the ribs you get out there they're pre-brined. They add salt to them when they pack them. One thing, it makes them sell them for a little more money, but it makes it better for the home cook to where the meat tastes good. That's why I've always heard they do it. It's not natural. They don't, pork doesn't come pre-brined like that, but it does make a difference. I mean, you can tell if you tried those Smithfield extra tenders. I mean, they'll get salty on you quick if you don't watch what you put on them because of what's already in there.
No doubt. Malcolm, one of the other things that I just referenced is as you are going through the unwrapping of the ribs process, you do something that allows you like easy access. You're not basically taking all of the racks back out of the cooker.
Yeah, I always like to, when I do my foil, I think of coming up over the bones and bringing it to where I can get back in it so I can check those ribs, Greg, and see if they're tender. And if they are, I open them up just enough to where they're right there on the grate. I can flip them out real easy, put them right back down, kind of dry them out a little bit because you've nuked the crap out of them in that foil. And you don't want to handle them too much. So going over to the table, taking them inside, it creates a mess. I found it easy if you take the time, double wrap them with foil, get them out right there on the grill. It makes it so much easier.
And you're going still bone side down when you go into the wrap, correct?
Bone side up in the wrap. I like meat down. Because,
I meant meat down. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep. If you go meat up in the wrap, it gets so hot in there that the meat wants to separate and fall off the bone, and that's where it falls apart on you.
So you just have it closed up around the bone side, so you can just open it up as you open that cooker, take a quick peek. If you like it, you just pull it out, and boom, away you go.
That's it. And
nice.
I will always try to orient the long end of the bone where it's going to have drawback as the end I wrap to. So it actually gets quadruple wrapped because I take the end over, tuck it in, bring the opposite end over. So I've got 4 layers of foil. That way, if there's going to be a puncture, it's not going to happen there. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lose all that juice that I put in there.
All right. One of the other things that I've been wanting to get to the last couple segments is deer. Now, I told Jess Prowls was on last week. We actually talked cursorily about deer, more on like knives and stripping and field dressing stuff in the actual woods themselves. A little bit about deer meat, but not too much. So you do this every year, right? You go on a big deer hunt?
That's my off season, man. I think I hunted more this year than I ever have. But from November 15th, which is like when our rifle season, I'm not a big bow hunter. I'm still hunting with a rifle. And so about November 15th, all the way to the end of January, it's open for us in Mississippi. So I try to go as many days as I can. But yeah, I was fortunate this year. I killed 2 doe and a nice buck. So I've got 3 deer in the freezer. And plus my son took his first one. So we've got plenty of deer meat here at our house.
All right. So, I mean, when you take a gross of 4 deer, what does that net out as far as gross weight of or net weight of usable meat?
Our deer are a little smaller here in Mississippi. We don't have those big Ohio, big winter deer like you guys have.
Yeah, you know why they're so big here in Ohio is because they walk the streets like a gang and people just throw regular food out. They're totally they have no fear of human beings whatsoever, and they're big and fat and nasty.
Well, it gets colder up there, so they got to put on more weight to make it through the season. We don't get that cold. So, right. But, I would say I probably get out of the average deer dressed out, I'm getting 50 pounds of meat. That's a pretty good bit of meat. So, yep. And we try to use all of it. Of course, I love cooking it, and we grind it. We turn it into sausage. We make ground deer. We make bacon burger. I cut up the primals and make steaks. The back straps, the inner loins, all of that is good eating. And a lot of people, they get turned off on deer, but it's usually because they've had some bad experiences with the processor where you don't know what deer you're getting back when you take it to one of these places, unless you've got somebody that is doing it right. And so it can get gamey, and you might not get your deer. You don't know, you know what's going on with it. So I'm really big about breaking it down and kind of doing it myself.
So what you're saying is you could take a deer to a processor, and then I'm bringing Greg's deer in, but I'm getting Malcolm's read, or I'm getting Malcolm's deer back.
Well,
potentially,
you don't know. They never tell you that, but
right.
I guarantee you it happens,
wow.
man. When they're doing, a lot of these guys are, they're processing hundreds, some of them thousands of deer. And it's just hard for them to take it through the whole process to guarantee you're getting, what you brought in. And you don't know, the next guy hadn't drove around with that deer 2 or 3 days in the back of his truck, showing everybody in town, how was it taken care of before it got there? So you never know.
So that's kind of what I'm leading to here is the one thing you hear about deer, inevitably it's gamey flavor. You hear that about some other wild animal as well, but definitely you hear it with deer. So is there a way to avoid that? Is that what you're talking about? Like as soon as you take it, the sooner you can get it to the processor, you kind of weed out some of the gamey flavor, or does something happen during processing that could add a gamey flavor? Or when you get it and you're cooking it, does something that you do in the process either keep it away or add to it?
Well, all of it, you really do want to, get it cleaned, remove it and get it, remove all the innards that you're not going to use and get the meat chilled down as much as possible, as fast as possible. That's going to take some of the bad flavor away. But most of it I've found is how it's cut up. If you take off the fat that's there, you take off the sinew, all that silver skin, the tendons, anything that you really don't want to eat, that's where people are getting the bad wild taste from deer. And that's what turns people off. Another one is, they're overcooking it because it's really it's such a lean meat, lean protein that you can't really go very much past medium, or it kind of gets a livery type flavor and texture. So it's not really good to overcook deer. The sausages, stuff like that, that's different because people are adding beef fat to it or they're adding pork fat to it. So, you got to cook that stuff well done. But, the way we eat it, steaks, it shouldn't be gamey or wild tasting at all.
So are you looking at a 135 kind of an internal temperature, or 130 and hope it carries into the mid 130s?
Usually I'm looking like around 125 to 128, something like that. That's the way we like to eat it.
Okay.
Now, 132 to 135 would be fine, but I wouldn't take it on the grill much past 135 because it's going to cook over. Then you're going to be medium well to well. And it's going to be, flavorless at that point. You might as well be eating ground beef or something. You cooked all the good stuff out of it.
Question from the instant chat here, Malcolm, is what caliber do you prefer when hunting?
Man, I'm kind of a gun guy. I got several. I mean, I carry a 308 with me, but it depends on where I'm shooting. I have a 300 Win Mag, and then I just put a scope on a 30-30 for my son. So. I've got several in the gun cabinet.
Are you a make your own load kind of guy?
No, I haven't. I've never got into that. There's a ton of good manufacturers out there that make some good cartridges. Maybe one day when I get some extra time, like that's going to happen.
Yeah, right. Especially on the pace that you're going, you're going to be lucky to get out for deer season there next November if things keep trending the way they do. We're talking with Malcolm Reed.
I'll be back for that, Greg.
All right. That's a non-negotiable. He'll be out in the field ready to take some deer.
That's guaranteed.
That's right. How to BBQ Right, and the pitmaster of Killer Hogs BBQ Team. HowToBBQRight.com is the website. All right. Any other tips or tricks as far as deer is concerned, or favorite recipes, or perhaps cuts that you don't normally think or that you don't usually hear about that are worthwhile?
Well, of course, everybody knows the backstrap. That's like the fillet on the inner loins are something that we always get and we fry up. You can think of like cutting them and kind of chicken fried deer. That's the way we always eat those, and that's the best eating there is. Yeah. And the backstraps, that's the loin that goes down the back. But a lot of people overlook the shoulders. You hear a lot of guys, they shoot the shoulders or they give the shoulders away. Those things make some outstanding barbecue, braising them, cooking them low and slow, like we do pork butts, like we do brisket. And it's really fantastic. Actually, that's a recipe that I'm going to put up. I don't have one of those on How to BBQ Right. So it's on my to-do list. Hopefully I'll get to it here pretty soon.
One of the other things that I saw, not deer, but veal cheeks.
I've never cooked them. I had them for the first time the other day at a restaurant in Oxford, Mississippi.
What do we know about veal cheeks?
I'm telling you what, they're fantastic.
I mean, I've heard of beef cheeks. I think somebody, Martha Stewart was on Stephen Colbert the other night promoting her. I don't know if you knew she's coming out with a grilling cookbook this spring. So, of course, I have my finger firmly on the pulse of everybody putting books out. So she will be putting out a grilling cookbook, which I find a little bit humorous. But, of course, I'm trying to get her on the show to talk about it because I think Martha Stewart on the show would be tremendous. But she was talking about some grilled fish, and she was talking about the rub and how to get it all ready and prepped. And she's pointed to the fish's face. She's like, and then, of course, there's meat in the cheeks there. So, it's been beef cheeks, of course. Then I heard fish cheeks. Now we're talking about veal cheeks. Is cheeks something that's always been around and been popular, or is it starting to come a little bit more in vogue at this point?
Oh, if you've ever had whole hog and you haven't ate the jowl, the cheeks from a hog, you've never had barbecue at its finest. Mm-hmm. The belly and the jowl meat is the best. And, of course, I'm not real familiar with beef cheeks. I've had snapper throat, which is, like red snapper, like you're talking about. Same thing. It's awesome. So there's just a lot of good meat there in animals. I had never tried it in deer. There's not much to a deer's jowl, but yeah. But if you think about it, Greg, real traditional barbacoa, they would take the heads and they would wrap them up and they'd put them in the ground, cook them for a long time, and that's what they made. That's what they ate. And so it's all that meat. I mean, there's a lot of good meat. The temple, they call it temple meat. It's kind of like right up behind the eye socket. In pork, it's awesome. I'm sure it is in beef too. But there's a lot of good meat up there that most people don't think about eating.
Are you an eyeball eater?
I've tried it one time, and it's not for me, man. I did it kind of on a dare, after a few beers. But it's not for me.
Is it because it's just kind of weird and it's an eyeball and you can't get over the mental hurdle?
There wasn't anything to it, really. I mean, other than it was just an eye. I didn't think it was delicious or anything. And I'll try anything, but it didn't. Some of that stuff that's not for me. I'll leave that up to Andrew Zimmerman. He can eat all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember having Ted Reeder on last year, or maybe it was the year before, and we were talking specifically about a little project he did on lamb testicles. Are you an oyster guy in that regard?
Yes. Now we always get the Rocky Mountain oysters when we go to Fort Worth. There's calf fries.
Yep.
And I didn't know what to expect going in, and I look for them every time I go. Now they're so good, and it's like eating a really good fried oyster. Texture's the same. There's no strong taste or anything like that. It just tastes like you're eating a really good fried oyster. Now they always serve them with like like a white buttermilk gravy, like you think you'd eat with breakfast, or like you would get on chicken fried steak. Mm-hmm. And they're fantastic. If you've never had them, that's something you should try.
All right, that'll be on the to-try menu, I think.
Sounds weird, I know.
Well, I mean, look, Ted Reeder did quite an in-depth whole thing, from pretty much getting them right out of the sack, if you will, and then doing a whole prep and the peel back and the brining and how to. I mean, and he did it. He smoked them, he grilled them, he fried them, he did them over a skillet, every way that he could possibly do it, and kind of rated them. This is what tasted best. This is what I would never do again. But he was quite a fan of the overall experience. So, I mean, I've heard more positive things than negative things when it comes to mountain oysters or things of that nature.
I don't know if I'd want to prep them and cook them, but I can handle trying them.
Yeah, I get you. No doubt. Last question before I let you go tonight, Malcolm. If we have the Barbecue Hall of Fame nominations closing here in 12 days, so if you could usurp the process for somebody that isn't already in right now, is there one or two people that you would put in for the class of 2019?
Man, I don't really know who all is in there, but I can think of a bunch of guys that should be. I heard you talking about John Marcus earlier. That was who you're going for.
Yes.
That guy's done more for where I'm at right now as far as putting barbecue back on the map and making it cool with the TV shows and all the production that he's worked on. I've never met him, but I know very well who he is. And for him not to really be a barbecue guy, just to be interested in it and do that, I think that's really cool. From the barbecue standpoint, I don't know if Mike Mills is in there, but he's in there. He's in there already. Yeah. There's there's a lot of guys out there that are deserving of it.
Malcolm Reed joining me here on the show. What's on tap for videos coming up here over the next 2-3 weeks?
Oh, I did a little hot wing experiment that we're going to release hopefully Thursday.
You were using the Vortex thing, right?
Yes.
How do you like that? How do you like it?
Man, it makes unbelievable chicken. I've never used it for anything but chicken. And it took my chicken wing game to a whole nother level. That's what I cook them on now.
Wow.
You could just put seasoning on it and run them, and they get crispy. But I was experimenting with cornstarch and seeing if I could kind of get that grill fried chicken, and it really worked. And it was amazing. I was looking at it as I cooked it. I was like, man, the starch. You're going to taste starch. It's going to be, it's going to be a weird texture because it so much of it clung to the skin. But it turned out really good. It was really crispy, and after I tossed it in a wing sauce, it was really, really good. I still have some work to do on it, but I think there's something there.
So that's going to be a YouTube video to come before you got to get it nailed down before you take it to video?
Oh, no, I'm releasing the experiment as is. Okay. So Rochelle's editing it today, and we're going to try to get it uploaded hopefully tomorrow night, if she gets it all to work, and then we'll hopefully Thursday morning it'll be live. So.
All right, cool.
Also, did some stuff for the Beefer guys, and maybe we can talk next month and tell you about that experience. If you hadn't seen that thing, it's pretty cool. It's not a grill. I mean, it's kind of more like a salamander you would see in a restaurant. But you think of high heat broiling, it's awesome.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Beefer next time on, because there is like a competing product to a certain degree called the Out of Wild Grill, which is a similar idea. So would love to get your beef or take and how it cooks and all that, because typically those things are also associated with a little bit of cash, especially when the Germans are involved. So we'll talk about that. In the meantime, you can check Malcolm Reed out, How to BBQ Right. You can find him on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at the same handle, How to BBQ Right. And Malcolm, you can find him on the first Tuesday of the month right here on the Barbecue Central Show. Malcolm, always appreciate the time, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, Greg. Looking forward to next month. Have a good one.
All right, man. There he is, Malcolm Reed.